Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome back everyone to another class of Tasawwuf. We're going to pick up on the discussion on adab because it's such a massive concept for the study of Tasawwuf. So he's going to get into the next, let's say, 20 lines almost, will be just about general adab of how people of the tariq are going to be together with other people, the sort of different iterations of that. Recalling from what we said in yesterday's lecture, the absolute importance of adab and courtesy and how it springs forth from sort of how our hearts are, the disposition that we have, our nafs, will inform our public conduct. And that's why, therefore, the reverse is also true. If we work on our public conduct and making it correct, then inshallah it will impact the nafs. And then he moves into something called as-sama'. As-sama' is the public dhikr of the tariq. Sometimes music is involved with the sama'. So you will find books, the reason I'm mentioning that is you will find books that criticize sama', for example, but what they're really criticizing is music. So here he's talking about sama' in general, the dhikr, why we do the public dhikr, listening to the dhikr, listening to the madih, what does that mean, and the impact that that can have on different people. This is an important part of tasawwuf because this is something that the Sahaba used to do, which is they used to gather and they used to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ called them Riyad al-Jannah. He referred to these as, these are the gatherings of paradise, the gardens of paradise. So, whether it's gathering to read Quran or to mention the Prophet ﷺ or remembrance in general, this is a critical part. And different tariqas now from the public manifestation of tasawwuf, not the theoretical manifestation, different tariqas will highlight it and do it in different ways. So that's true, but we're going to sort of just, I don't know how far we're going to get into it because it's a few lines down. But if we do, I just wanted to make sure that I highlight the importance of the sama'. And if we get into it, it will just be the beginning topic, and then the next lecture we'll do the complete review of it. Okay, those are the main topics for today's lecture. Let's jump right in. Okay, we begin the way we normally begin, which is to turn directly to the text. We're going to begin with line 173. قال المصنف رحمه الله ونفعنا بعلومه في الدارين آمين. إذ نصحوا الأحداث والأصاغر وحفظوا السادات والأكابر. They advise youths and boys, and they protect the masters and the great ones. Right? So your adab is for those above you and for those below you. It's very easy to get caught up into the cycle of I'm going to be good to the people who are important to me, and I'm not going to care about the people that are not important to me or the people who are not following me or not in this tariqah or something like that. And that's very, very dangerous because that's the exact opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. We said in the last lecture, we read the lines about the importance of having adab towards everyone and everything, even inanimate objects. I think I gave you the example of slamming the door, being made out of wood, etc. So you have to have, complete, as we say, shamil. It has to be a complete type of adab without harming anyone. And that's a way that you humble yourself, especially with those who are against you. And then he says in 174, وَاجْتَنِبُوا مَا يُؤْلِمِ الْقُلُوبَ وَابْتَدَرُوا الْوَاجِبَ الْمَنْدُوبَ. Wow, in my text he only has half of that translated. Oh no, sorry, I found it. My bad. Let me read that in Arabic. I remember now when I was tracking it down. So he says in 174, وَاجْتَنِبُوا مَا يُؤْلِمُ الْقُلُوبَ وَابْتَدَرُوا الْوَاجِبَ وَالْمَنْدُوبَ. They have avoided what grieves the heart. They hurry to the fara'id and to the nawafil. So those things that bring you down, whether it's people that bring you down, whether it's actions and habits that bring you down, whether it's food that brings you down, anything that's going to subtract from your spiritual state, the Sufi is going to be away from it because you don't have time. You want to be in the zone now. You want to be seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you worship Him now, or at least know that He sees you now. You don't want to do that later, you want to do that now, because you might die now. You might die later, so you want to do that now. I mean, so time is also another thing that's very important. I'm not going to get into that right now. So anything that subtracts, that distracts, that retracts, that blocks, that's a barrier, all of that stuff, the Sufi is going to move it out of the way. And then he says, and then they hurry to the fard and to the nawafil. So that which is obligatory, they're the first. You're going to pray on time. Then you're going to do the nawafil before and after. So on and so forth. So, well, I said I'm not going to speak about time, but maybe it makes sense. So basically, the whole 24-hour a day cycle for the person of tasawwuf, in each moment there is something that they need to be doing, whether it's a fard or whether it's a mandub. So either the fard, like the fard prayers, or you're fasting, or you're something like that, or you're doing something extra and you've filled your extra time with those extra devotional works. So you don't have time to subtract from your spiritual state because you're busy doing those type of works. 175. وَخَدَمُوا الشُّيُوخَ وَالْإِخْوَانَ وَبَذَلُوا النُّفُوسَ وَالْأَبْدَانَ. They serve the sheikhs and the brothers, and they have expended themselves and their bodies. So we refer to these people, or people of tasawwuf refer to themselves as khadim al-fuqara. I am the servant of the faqir, so I'm the servant of the Sufis. And I want to help them just like I want to be helped, or just like I was helped. And the sheikh of the tariq, I can also serve the sheikh of the tariq because I want to help spread this teaching and spread this message so more people can benefit. Now this is where a lot of people can say, well, this is like a cult of personality or something like that. It's not a cult of personality. It's just when you have a teacher, whether it's a teacher of tasawwuf or a teacher of anything else, you're going to have respect for your teacher, and you're going to want to help them do what they're doing, because it takes inertia to do this. We have to have, in our case, a university, a camera, and internet, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you need stuff. You can't just snap your fingers and it happens. So therefore, this is a process, and this is a journey of sorts. And tasawwuf really is the journey of the inside. So there's a lot of khidmah, there's a lot of service that's involved in tasawwuf. Inside the tariq to the sheikh, and then also outside to the general public. 176. وَانْصَتُوا عِنْدَ الْمُذَاكِرَاتِ وَاحْتَرَمُوا الْمَاضِي مَعًا وَالْآتِ. They ask the sheikh about what they do not know, and before what they have not arrived at, they stop. So the sheikh is, the person, the point of reference for them when they're stuck on something. And the translation's a little off. They ask the sheikh about what they do not know, and before what they have not arrived at, they stop. وَاحْتَرَمُوا الْمَاضِي مَعًا وَالْآتِ. No. This is subhanallah. This is a mix-up of two lines. Sorry, let me do that again. I read you the wrong line. My bad. That's my fault. No need to edit this out. It's just Jalla man yashu. 176. وأنصتوا عند 176. وأنصتوا عند المذاكرات واحترموا الماضي معا والآت. They listen carefully at the time of discourse, and they respect both those who have gone and those yet to come. So the discourse is the dars, the suhbah of the sheikh. When the sheikh speaks, they're going to listen. We talked about the listening of the Sahaba to the Prophet ﷺ, and this is sort of like a part of the Sunnah, is to listen to the sheikh what he's giving. When the sheikh teaches, it's a monologue. The sheikh is teaching, unless he asks if there are questions or for clarifications, and then it becomes a dialogue. And then they respect both those who have gone and those yet to come. Those either who have passed before them, it could be interpreted that way, and those that are yet to come. So just a general respect for everyone. That's one way we can interpret that line. And then 177, asking the Shaykh, my bad. وَاسْأَلُوا الشِّيُوخَ عَمَّا جَهِلُوا وَوَقَفُوا مِن دُونِ مَا لَمْ يَصِلُوا. They ask the Shaykh about what they do not know, and before what they have not arrived at, they stop. So if I'm what I'm doing now, what I'm involved in now, I'm going to go to the Shaykh and ask for his input on this, that, and the other thing. The type of spiritual states that we read about, that the Shaykh might talk about, that I have yet to experience, I'm not going to concern myself with those things now. Kind of like in the back of my mind. I hope, Ya Rab, inshallah, Allah opens up on me and I get those type of openings. But because I have not been given that opening, then I don't need to concern myself with it. If I was meant to concern myself with it, then Allah Ta'ala would have given it to me. So that's also important, kind of like, I know it's like half of a line, it's like a subtle thing, but it's very important because it's very easy to have shahwa, to have a desire in tasawwuf. I want more spiritual openings. And that's something that you have to fight against immensely, because you take what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. 178 وَعَمِلُوا بِكُلِّ مَا قَدْ عَلِمُوا وَآثَرُوا وَاغْتَفَرُوا وَاحْتَشَمُوا. They act upon everything they know, and they have preference, they ask forgiveness, and are modest. So if you act with what you know, Allah will give you that which you do not know, and that's one of the understandings of that verse in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah ta'ala will teach you. And then to give preference, atharu, is to give preference to others before themselves. So I'm given like food, tfaddal akhi, you have before me, and then I'll take. Things that you give preference to other people over yourself, to debase yourself, to not see yourself more than somebody else. وَاغْتَفَرُوا وَاحْتَشَمُوا, and they ask forgiveness and are modest. So they're modest in everything, in their discourse, in their social intercourse, and they ask for forgiveness. They do not want to, don't want to be in a position where you've harmed somebody, where you've hurt somebody, where you've offended somebody. And that requires a soft touch, and that requires training, especially people that come from the West. It's not something that comes to them naturally, because they're not the general environment is not like that. It's a completely different type of environment. So this is something that Westerners, whether they're born in a Muslim family or they come to Islam later, it's irrespective. They have to work very hard on that, because it's something that requires practice. I see that I'm running out of time, and then we'll pick up with 179 in the next clip, inshallah. Okay, 179. وَاحْتَكَمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِنصَافِ فَوَرَدُوا كُلَّ مَعِينٍ صَافٍ. They judge with justice and equality, and they have drunk from every pure running water. So basically they're equitable in how they deal with things, and one, they're not going to allow themselves to be taken advantage of, because when you read some of this stuff you might think that these are sort of like fools, naive fools, but that's exactly the opposite. These are very aware people. So they'll judge with justice. They'll keep the sharia, that's the justice for us, and they'll be fair in their dealings when they have to. Why? Because the water that they drink from, that which sustains them spiritually, is pure. Just need to pop ahead to see something. I know this is not professional, but I'm a little off today. I apologize. Okay. And then he says in verse 180, وَبَعْضُهُمْ كَانَ لِبَعْضٍ عَوْنًا يَلْقَى لَدَيْهِ دَعَةً وَأَمْنًا. Each of them is a support to the other, giving rest and safety. That's super important. This is not a place of competition. You're not here to compete with your fellow brethren. You're all on the same journey, and at the same time, everyone is on their own journey, and only you can beat yourself in that journey. In other words, I'm not against anyone else. I'm against myself. I'm against my lower self. So you having, gone way ahead of me, great, that's awesome for you. Show me how you did that. What's your secret? Maybe I can benefit from that. It doesn't affect me, because the arriving, is not one that's based on time for us. The goal is to arrive and to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to die trying. Because if you die struggling, then you die in a good spiritual struggle. That's a good state to die in. So that's what ultimately matters. So if you have advanced or regressed, it doesn't impact me advancing or regressing. So I'm here to support you and you're here to support me no matter what. Your success or your failure means nothing vis-a-vis my success and my failure, because the success and failure is something that's individualized. There's no prize that you're getting. It's not like you're going to get like a grant or something like that. So for the brethren, we're a safe space. Everyone is safe and we're here to help each other, بقدر الإمكان, which as much as is possible, and everyone should be safe. There's no judgment, because we're all human, we all falter, and the goal of the gathering of the tasawwuf of the fuqara is that we can improve ourselves, following the teachings of the Shaykh. 181. ينصره في الحق حيث كان فإن أسى قارده إحسانا. He makes him victorious in truth, however he may be, and if he has done wrong, he gives him excellence. So in both modes, you are going to give your brother and sister something positive. You're either going to be honest with them, or you're going to be excellent in your decorum with them if they harm you. A lot of interpersonal stuff can happen in tasawwuf. I mean, when you read a Sha'rani, the first book I read of tasawwuf in Arabic was a Sha'rani's book, and Al-Anwar al-Qudusiyya fi Ma'arif al-Qawa'id al-Sufiyya, which is a tremendous book. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And I actually taught it to my students. But he has like the whole middle section of the book, like almost 1/3 of the book is about the brethren dealing with each other. And when you read that, you're like, okay, I can see a lot of stuff can happen. There's a lot of jealousy can happen, and people that want to be closer to the sheikh. And that's part of what the sheikh needs to do to be effective, is disavow those notions amongst the fuqara. There's no what they say in tasawwuf, man la yanfa'uka ba'dahu faqurbahu la yanfa'uk. Whoever's distance cannot, if you can't benefit from someone's distance, then if they're near you, you're not going to benefit from them. So we benefit from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's not even with us in the earthly sense, but his sunnah is with us, or we might be away from Medina physically from where he's resting, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we still benefit. So it's the same thing. There's no closeness or not closeness to the sheikh. And by the way, people that think that so and so is close to the sheikh, I mean, the sheikh might be using them for something, but that doesn't mean that they're close in the tariq or something like that. So one of the problems that happens and this is in any group, not just in tasawwuf, even if we were like in the university or a classroom, you have to help kind of guide people away from these problems, interpersonal problems. Okay, 182. وليس حط الرأس من آدابه بل الصواب كان اجتنابه. Hanging the head is not part of its courtesy. Correctness is to avoid it. So, people that just kind of walk around like this, it's like a fake humility. Humility is that you don't see the nafs as superior to somebody else, and you don't see that any task is menial to you. You do what has been called on you where Allah Ta'ala has called you to do it. The Prophet ﷺ كان في مهنة أهلي ﷺ. He was in the service of his family, so his hands moved with the hands of the family. If they cooked, if they cleaned, he did the same things, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So nothing is menial if that's where you are, but he was the best of creation, alayhi salatu wasalam. So don't worry about the outward expression of humility. You got to be humble in your heart. 183. إذ كان مبنيا على القصاص لمن أراد حسبة الخلاص. It is built on being fair to the one who wants only liberation to be on his side. Let me just read the next line with it, 184. وليس في قيام الاستغفار أصل صحيح واصطلاح جاري. There is no real basis for standing up and asking forgiveness, and it is not commonly used. So if somebody messes up with one of the fuqara and comes and asks for forgiveness, there's not to debase oneself in a fake way, but to just own up that you did a problem. So just to be straightforward about it. I'm sorry. Okay, done. I mean, that it happens. 185. والقصد من هذا الطريق الأدب في كل حالة منه هذا المذهب. The purpose of this path is courtesy in every state. From it, this school comes. So the whole school of tasawwuf is about adab. The next section is about the sama, so it looks like we did get there. So rather than jump into it, let me use the last couple minutes of this clip to talk about adab and sort of in its importance. Of course, I'm trying to be, my style of teaching is very textual, so this is the book we're teaching. I want to read it to you line by line. You can hear it in the original Arabic, read the translation. I'll do my best that it's compiled for you in like one document, like a Word or a PDF file. But sometimes it's important to go off script, sort of just take a bird's eye view. So he's talking a lot about the group dynamic. And in the modern world, the group dynamic of tasawwuf is a little bit different. A lot of it's online, but there are gatherings. Sometimes some mashaykh, they travel, and then they have different groups of murids in different places, and then people get to host the sheikh or not host. There's all these kind of dynamics that you'll kind of be familiar if you follow people online. Traditionally, that's not what happened. Traditionally, the sheikh is a very local thing. It's like a local village. Maybe a couple of people have journeyed, they heard of the sheikh, they came, they take the tariq from the sheikh, but then they just stay in that area. They probably even live at the zawiyah, and that's about it. People did travel. It's not like they didn't travel, but I'm just saying not like we do now, like all the time, throughout the weeks and months and years. So don't think that what he's saying is abstract and doesn't have any application. It does have application because we are going to be with other people. And when we are with other people, we have to remember that we are in a metaphysical space, not a physical space. So somebody got to spend more time with the sheikh, that's physical. Somebody is closer to the sheikh, that's physical. Etc., etc. What matters is the matter of the heart and taking instruction from the sheikh to improve your nafs. Because the tariq is you against yourself. It's not you and the sheikh. Like I said in the a couple of classes ago, I like to look at the sheikh as kind of standing behind you as your coach, telling you to go this way or that way. You got to do the work. You got to put in the time. Of course, the sheikh is central and important because he is the one that's guiding you. But some people can get lost in that. And Imam As-Suyuti talks about that in his book on the Shadhali Tariqa, Ta'eed al-Tariqa al-Aliyya, I think it's called, the Tariqa al-Shadhali, or something, Ta'eed al-Haqiqa al-Aliyya ila Tariqa al-Shadhali, or something like that. And he talks about people being lost in the sheikh and forgetting about the Prophet, for example, alayhi salatu wasalam. So the adab thing is very important because when you remember that and it triggers in you it should trigger in all of us a self-correction. When we mess up, when we've crossed the line on the adab thing, we have to come back and remember, okay, adab is what matters, and this is metaphysical, not physical. And then hopefully that will kind of keep things in check. Okay, we'll pick it up in the next clip, inshallah. Okay, now entering into the section on sama', he says in verse 186, وَلِلْأَنَامِ فِي السَّمَاعِ خَوْصُ لا عفوا خوض let me start over. وللأنام في السماع خوض لكن لهذا الحزب فيه روض. To people, sama' is an entertainment, but for this group there is a garden in it. قال العراقيون بالتحريم قال الحجازيون بالتسليم. The Iraqis say it's forbidden and the people of the Hijaz allow it. Different, the Hijazis refers to Malik and Shafi'i radiallahu anhum, and then the Iraqis refers to the Hanafis. Of course, maybe that was at the time. Of course, the issue is a little bit different now with the legal opinions towards it. Al-Muhim, he's saying that when he says in the 186, to people sama' is entertainment, but for this group, meaning the people of Tasawwuf, it's a garden. It's not entertainment, even though it can sound beautiful and sound melodious and it could be very celebratory. Sometimes these gatherings could be large, and there might be food involved, people get dressed up, etc., etc. But that's just the exterior, that's just the physical, right? It's a metaphysical, the part that matters. So the sama' is a source of strength, spiritual strength for the person that's journeying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes it's very difficult just to be on your own and to do all the work on your own, but having the power of making the dhikr in a group under the supervision of the sheikh, whether the dhikr is silent or out loud, or whether it's with music meaning like anashid and qasa'id or not. Some tariqas do use instruments. In my tariqah, for example, we don't use instruments, it's not permissible. But there are different things in the history of the spread of Islam. I mean, the most musical instrument expression will probably be the sama' of the Mawlawiyya, of the tariqah ascribed to Maulana Rumi radiallahu anhu. And then there are others that are not. So there are different, there are different ways, and we're not here to talk about the historical manifestations. We're still talking about the text, but that's sort of what some of what the sama can look like. And then he says in 188, وَإِنَّ لِلشِّيُوخِ فِيهِ فَنًّا إِذْ جَعَلُوهُ لِلطَّرِيقِ رُكْنًا. For the sheikhs, it is an art, and they take it as a pillar of the path. Okay, so this is an important part of tasawwuf, that there is the sama or the dhikr or the hadra or the imara. Different regions have different words for it. I usually just use the word al-hadra because it's more, it's one that I'm used to, but the hadra is to bring people into the hadra, into the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by making this gathering a gathering of remembrance. And we ask Allah ta'ala that all of our gatherings be gatherings of remembrances. And by saying that, we're reminded that the hadra could look different. It doesn't always have to be like people jumping up and down, which is probably what people are thinking of. It could also be a lesson, or it could be the recitation of the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, or it could be listening to a section from Sahih al-Bukhari, or the Shifa of Qadi Ayad, or even hearing the Risala of Imam al-Shafi'i being read. That's a hadra because you begin with the name of Allah, and this is part of the Turath of the Deen, etc. Of course, in tasawwuf, it's more dhikr. I admit that I'm bending the definition a little bit, but I just want you to understand sort of what we mean when we say that. And it's an art. He said, "Lishaykhi fan." It's an art form, and there's a way, and you have to follow the instructions of the sheikh, and you can't, go off script. 189. وَإِنَّمَا أُبِيحَ لِلزُّهَادِ وَنَدْبُهُ إِلَى شُيُوخِ بَادِ. It is permissible for the zahids, for the ascetics, and its authorization for the sheikh is apparent. So even though somebody might be an ascetic, this is something that they're going to do and attend. 190. وهو على العوام كالحرام عند شيوخ الجلة الأعلام. And for the common, it is like the forbidden according to the great sheikhs who have knowledge. So in the sama of the tariq, okay, we are not supposed to attend if we are not of that tariq, nor are we supposed to allow the common people to attend that are not even affiliated with the tariq at all. Because the strength of the dhikr comes from everybody being on the path together. Everyone have taken this chain of transmission from the sheikh, following the dhikr, the litanies of the sheikh. It's going to be much more powerful than, if I roll up and I'm not part of that tariq. I can roll up and I can observe, like if I'm a guest, but I'm not going to participate because I don't want my energy to mess up the energy. So the energy thing is an important part of tasawwuf that a lot of people don't understand, and a lot of people might think what I'm saying is like woo-woo and like not Quran and Sunnah. This is not the case because the Prophet ﷺ, when one of the hadiths that we narrate in the science of tasawwuf, the hadith of the talqeen of the dhikr of the Prophet ﷺ giving the dhikr to the Sahaba, is he gathers them into the house and he says, "Afikum gharib." Is there anyone strange amongst you? Meaning like a non-Muslim or somebody that's not from here. They said no. He said, "Close the doors, raise your hands with me, and say La ilaha illallah." That's I believe that's narrated in Hakim. But like I mentioned the Sharani's book in the last clip, Sharani mentions that with the chain of transmission. So that's one of the core hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Afikum gharib." In this case, it could be interpreted as non-Muslim, or like an enemy combatant or something like that, because he's teaching the Sahaba, and he is in that case the Shaykh of all Shaykhs, of course, alayhi salatu wasalam, because that's going to affect the energy is going to affect each other. We have public gatherings. Our prayers are public. Jummah, it's not secret. He's not saying that it's secret. But if we're going to have a hadra or and that's why most of these the dhikr of the tariqah of the tasawwuf happens in a zawiyah, not in the masjid, unless the masjid belongs to the tariqah, because the masjid is an aam place. It's a public place. Of course, in the modern world, this is not strictly observed, and there are public sama'as. Okay, that is true. I mentioned the Mawlawiyya, I think earlier in this clip or the last clip. So that's a good example. The sama of the Mawlawiyya, them playing with the instrument and then them whirling, that's the sama. If you go and watch that, the real one, and I've been blessed to actually see the real tariqah do it, in a real sama, you're not going to jump in and start doing it with them. Right? You're going to observe. That people think that's because it's a performance. It's not a performance. So he said it's not a performance. This is dhikr. But that's not my dhikr. I don't know how to do that dhikr. So I'm just going to observe and appreciate the beauty of the diversity and say Subhanallah la ilaha illallah and make dua for Maulana Rumi radiallahu anhu. So it's the same kind of thing. Maybe I spent a little bit more time on that, but I wanted to explain it because it's important. Because unfortunately, it's something that a lot of modern Sufis are a little lax on. Okay, 191. وفيه كان ميلق الأحوال كيما يبين سافل وعالي. In it there is a fast horse of states. It shows the low and the high. So the hadra can be like a supercharger, and people can like have like fits, and I mean that's another. And it seems that every week the same people have the same fits, which makes you doubt if they're real or not. But you know, we take people at face value. 192. وهو صراط عندهم محدود يعبره الواجد والفقيد. It is for them a limited path traveled by the finder and the loser. So the dhikr, the sama', the hadra is supposed to take you on this journey that is known by the tariq or known by the people of tasawwuf. 193. فعابر يحله علين وآخر يحطه سجينا. It takes the one who has traveled to the highest, and it lowers the one who has not traveled to the prison. So if you are of the tariq, of this specific tariq, and you're doing the hadra, it's like it's going to raise you, it's going to supercharge you. And if you're not of that tariq, what he's saying, it will drain you. It will have the opposite effect, and it will take away from your energy. So there is dhikr that we can do that's general. That's the dhikr that the Prophet ﷺ has given us, prayers on the Prophet ﷺ, the dua of the morning and the evening. That's general. You don't need, the Prophet ﷺ has given us general permission to doing that. But the dhikr required to change your nafs and to advance your nafs, which is the core of tasawwuf, that comes from this tariq, from this chain of transmission that comes from this tariq. So if you take that chain of transmission, then khalas, then you can do that and you can enter this this path, and you will inshallah benefit. But if you go to another group, another tariqah, which is equally valid and everything, but you haven't taken that path and haven't tread that path with that chain of transmission, you attend the hadra, then it's going to drain you of the spiritual energy. And that happens, and people don't realize that. 194. وهو سرور ساعة يزول نعم وسم ساعة قتول. It is the happiness of a passing hour, yes, and the poison of an hour which can kill. So he's just sort of restating the same thing, and I see that I've run out of time, so we'll pick up tomorrow. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam wa sallallahu ala sayyidina mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, we went all the way up to line 194, and we talked about two major topics. One topic was the topic of adab. We did finish that discussion talking about the great fundamental importance of adab in the tariq, in the path in general, and how it is of the utmost importance because it is informed by what's on the inside, and if we correct what's on the outside, hopefully it will also have a backward effect and affect what's on the inside, and vice versa. And we are the tariq is a safe space, and the space of tasawwuf, the people that are practicing tasawwuf, it's a safe space. Everyone's on the same team. They love each other. They want to help each other because everyone is on their own journey. So your success or non-success has no impact on my journey because only I can do my journey. And it's not a race, and therefore it's something that's to be considered seriously. And then we got into the sama', which I have to admit is a little bit heavier than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to try to spend a little bit more time in tomorrow's lecture dissecting it. But basically, the sama' or the public dhikr of the tariq is a critical part, a component, because when you make dhikr in a group, it's going to have a stronger impact. When you do anything in a group, it has a stronger impact, of course, especially if you're of the same tariqah. So the main theme that we've been talking about in the couple of lines that we read is the importance of only people of one tariqah attending the sama' or the hadra of their tariq. And how if you don't, it can drain you. And that's something that I think a lot of people are not aware of. It's just something to be aware of, because if you're not all doing the same thing for the same reasons and taking from the same source, then one person will kind of, either you'll just get drained of it or you'll drain the whole gathering for the rest of the people. And while on the outside it looks like it's some sort of celebratory ceremony, entertainment, it's not. It's something that is of the utmost importance, and it's an art form, the way the Sheikh in the poem Ibn al-Banna mentions it, rahimahullah. And it is something that is to be approached seriously, and with the proper rules and etiquette. And for those who are of a specific tariqah, that attend the sama of their tariqah, that's going to tremendously impact you and lift you very quickly, inshallah, and oftentimes give you kind of that little boost that you need. Those are the main things we talked about. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.